Hi, so welcome to Future Now, our IG session that's streaming live. I'm just inviting Rachel Armstrong and Servane to join us on this chat. So if I'm looking distracted, it's because that's what I'm doing. I'm keying in their names into the Instagram app to get them to join. So in today's session, which is going to be hosted by, sorry, I'm fiddling around with my phone, putting it to a holder. In today's session, which is going to be hosted by Servane, we're going to talk about how we build better futures now. If you have any questions or if you have any thoughts, particularly as relates to issues of equality as relate to futures, then do send them. You can send them either via the question mark, the little icon that you can see at the bottom of the app, or you can actually write them in the comments. It's easier for us to pick them up if you put them in the comments, because then we can actually see them as we're going along. So hopefully Rachel and Servane will be joining us very shortly. My apologies that I was late. I got stuck in traffic in an area with very low Wi-Fi, so I was both simultaneously unable to get hold of anyone to tell them that I couldn't make it for 6, while unable to go anywhere. So I can see Servane. So Servane, if you look, there should be an invite from me and you need to click accept, because although you can see this streaming, you can't actually connect to me. So look out in your app, you're going to get, I've sent you an invite, but I'll send one again. Oh, I can see you're trying to connect there. Yeah, you should be coming in right now. You should pop up on the screen any minute. I've sent Rachel a couple of invites as well. Yep, I pressed accept a couple of times. I can see you're trying to connect with me. I'm trying to connect with you. Sometimes this app is a little bit glitchy. So I've accepted your connection 3 times and it's not letting you come in. Just to check, Servane, oh, it says you're unable to join still. I'm sorry about this. I don't know why it's being glitchy. I've sent you another invite. So try and click on that and we'll try and get you in. If it won't let you in on this. Oh, there you are.
I mean, I see, I can see. Hey, hello everyone. Hello you.
I'm sorry.
Jesus, something's happening. It's something that there's a configuration that just wants us not to attend.
I know, I'm getting stuck in traffic. It's not letting you in. It's not letting Rachel in. I'm going to ping Rachel again, but it's okay. We can roll with this, Servane. We are used to
as you do, maybe you have introduced the topic already. Oh, she is here.
Yeah, Rachel, you need to log out and then I'm going to look out for a little invite that I've
sent. She's in. She's in.
Oh, there you are.
She's in.
My God, we've made it.
Yes, it seems that we had a slight delay. So how can we make sure that we've got even more people to join us? There was something that appeared but then everything vanished.
Yeah, hopefully they'll figure that we're streaming. They'll see it on your little icons on your Instagram. They'll work out that we've gone live. So
okay, cool.
Thank you so much for hosting us today, Servane. If you run people through the method you're going to take, it just sounds brilliant.
Right, so I think that Melissa, Rachel, and I just connect quite frequently on Twitter or sporadically, but every time we've got that some sort of a sort of energy coming out of us, we say, why do these people think like that? Why do we see some architecture or initiatives that just put people in such a mental prison or such physical prison? And that's really not good for the planet and people itself. So we think, what can we do? What can we do to build a better future now? Because that now we really need, we haven't got time. But I think that we're 3 of us are intrinsically positive, although we rant a lot, but we are positive. So what we're going to do, and I know some of us can join us now, if they can, and others will see that later on, we want to have a little thinking session. And we want to think out loud about the future we want in a nutshell, because we're really short on time, but also see what's preventing us from getting to that future. What are the assumptions that are stopping us from reaching to that future? So very quickly, Melissa, Rachel, can you just say in one line who you are for people who don't know you? and then we move on very quickly.
Rachel, you first.
Okay. It's so great to be in this conversation. It's a conversation I've wanted for a very long time with you guys. I'm a professor of regenerative architecture at KU Leuven in Belgium. I was formerly at Newcastle University. And effectively, this part of my career has really been about innovating new technologies that are fundamentally organic. These are not just reruns of machines, but how do we actually operationalize aspects of nature so that we work along with nature and not exploit it. That's what I do.
I'm Melissa Sterry, and I work across both academia and industry. I basically sit at the interface of a number of different areas, and my objective effectively is to work out how we create a more sustainable world, a world in which we have equality both with our fellow humans and with the natural world. And so when we make every design decision that we make, every other decision we make, we're thinking about how it affects the non-human entities. That's me.
Oh, wonderful. So joining these two wonderful women, I'm Servane, and I'm calling here from London in the UK. And I've been working a long time with social entrepreneurs, so people who have that kind of desire to make change in their communities through the means of business, and some new business, different kind of businesses. And what I do is I help them, and I help their investors to imagine, refine, and activate strategies that make the future. And I just want, in a nutshell, my friends to share with me, just to get us started, so that we know what is for you, what is your hope to achieve in a lifetime. And if you can say that in one sentence, what do you want to see in your lifetime?
Rachel, you did that, so I'm just going to plug my phone in 1 minute.
I want to see new technology that's new, a technology that works with nature and not against it. I think that's possible in my lifetime.
Okay. So as Melissa plugs herself in, I'm just going to share my contribution. So what I want to see in my lifetime is leaders who are able to listen to themselves and others, and through that deep generative listening can actually make things change and tell people and the planet they matter. What about you, Melissa?
I essentially want us to redesign the way that we create everything around us, the whole of the physical world, and so that it isn't harming the environment, it's actually helping it. It's a very regenerative process, and I really do think that's possible with enough creativity and enough application.
So there's technology, there's the tech technology, there's thinking technology, there's reimagination, there's biotechnology, and so forth in there. And I just want to invite people who are listening, maybe now or later, to have a little go themselves, maybe pause the video and just write for themselves, what is the future you want? That better future. What does it look like? What does it feel like? Where are you in that future? Just to have a feel, and then we can think along together, right? So when you're done, you start the video again. All back to us.
Great.
So I'm gonna then ask, based on what you've said, and I'd like you really to think to answer from your perspective, because the other people are not in the room. So that's the trick. I wonder, what are your thoughts, or what is stopping you from materializing that future you've just described?
Do you want to go first, Rachel?
Oh yeah. Essentially, it's the grand narratives, the narratives that of possibility within our society at the moment are controlled by only a few people. I mean, so like if Elon Musk decides that we can all go to Mars and eat pizza, that becomes a narrative that is somehow rather believable. But if we are working in academia or in small, medium enterprises, and we have ideas that potentially could be scalable, our ability to get funds from that, because the grand narratives differ from the ones that we are actually working with, then we find it much, much harder. So, for example, working with microbial fuel cells at the moment with people in the Southampton University, translating Nature also in the UK. And we've done some incredible stuff. Essentially, microbes creating enough energy to power mobile phones. It's been demonstrated at Glastonbury. A technology called P-Power, which has been developed by or philanthropically supported by Bill Gates in Africa. And yet, there's almost nobody who knows about electrogenic microbes and digital technology. And so trying to get this market, which is, we're applying for a European Union EIC transitions grant, 28th of September, need to get it in. But it's very hard work. There's resistance by formal scientific organizations, particularly ones that have interests in renewables and fossil fuels. So it's pushback from that, trying to discredit the amount of energy potentially that could be used. But essentially the work that we're doing is asking people to change the way that they work in the home. So that could we invent a 12-volt lifestyle? These are, and I think that that's possible. I really think that that's possible. I mean, if we think of mobile homes, it normally has a negative influence. But really, we could have a fantastic lifestyle on 12 volts, but we just need to reinvent things like how do we refrigerate stuff? There are metamaterials now that, that when you stretch them, they cool down. When you compress them, they heat up. I mean, we always think we've lived in an innovation period since the mid-19th century where the answer to innovation is throw energy at it. No matter what we're doing, whether we're climbing the stairs, whether we're cooling an ice cream, whether we're heating our homes, the answer is to throw energy at it. And there are many other ways that we can innovate, and getting people to think into that space. I think if we could almost create a global kind of innovation initiative where everybody can innovate anything, but you've got to do it within 12 volts. I think we'd see some incredible impacts. But changing that narrative of, it's not 320 volts, therefore it's never going to work. We're going to have to change all the infrastructure. Everything's got to change, and that's way too expensive. That's really what's stopping us from getting the funding we need in order to create the tool sets for people then to take the knowledge and the technology themselves and kind of innovate into their communities, innovate into their businesses. But yeah, we're getting stuck at that level.
Well, there's a lot of messages here. So the narrative, things that are not questions, in the way we do things, we throw energy at things, the not knowing that things exist already in nature and around us, that could pretty much do a good job, but we're not looking in that direction. Okay, so let's settle that. If you're looking on the recording, pause the video, let that thinking sink in and write some notes and look at what is, from Rachel's perspective, is preventing her from building the better future she wants. What about you, Melissa? In a nutshell.
Rachel very nails it. I think the big issue is we have phenomenal work going on out there. There is no shortage of incredible ideas, incredible research projects, approaches and concepts and methods that could make a huge leap into a much more sustainable future. That's not that there's no absence of imagination here. The problem is the visibility of this work, and secondly, the access to the funding. The visibility issue is very much what Rachel has alluded to. It's the fact that largely the media attention is extremely dominated by a very small number of voices, and that is partly to do with the fact that although we are aspiring as a global community, most people are aspiring to build a better world, the fact of the matter is we're still really worshipping the old. In that, why is it that people listen to Elon Musk when the other day he tweeted sort of casually without any expertise on the subject, oh, we should be worrying more about the population than we should about climate change. Why is it that anyone would actually take him seriously? Well, they take him seriously because he's made a lot of money. And we still live in a world in which, unfortunately, the major media pay a lot of attention to very rich people who sometimes are very smart and sometimes do have great ideas. But even the smartest of them, the Bill Gateses, actually make mistakes because they don't know it all. And until we see the media, until we see the press, until we see all the platforms that promote content actually being more discerning, more ambitious, more curious, and actually creating new ways in which all these amazing ideas that are out there can be presented in effect to the population, can actually be shown, and so that they're aware, they know what the options are, then that in turn creates desire, it creates political agency, and that people basically understand, you know, we don't have to live in a world which is increasingly polluted and that is increasingly warming and all the rest of it. We do have options. So that is one side of it. And then the financing side of it is also very much too few people getting too much attention. And it's reached the point of being a joke now. This comes down to issues of equality. This comes down to who is taken seriously. You know, and as a woman that has worked in the enterprise sector and has gone out there and tried to get finance for a number of startups in a number of different scenarios, I know full well that if you're a woman or if you are not basically a white middle class, white middle class Caucasian male, then you are going to have a much tougher time. You are going to have to show much more data. You're going to have to be many times more detailed in what you present. Whereas if you're a guy, there are many, many guys out there. I've seen guys literally walking with pretty much the back of the envelope, the back of the beer mat rather, iteration of their idea. Absolutely no research, made up mumbo jumbo figures, bang, they're getting seven figures of investment drop in. And for as long as we're working in that way, we are not going to make the leaps that we need to. So I think we need a more equitable media, and we need more equitable distribution of funding. And we need some real genuine ambition in terms of getting money to the people that are working on the really smart ideas. And if we can do that, then I think it would make an absolutely enormous difference to so many people within both the research community and within startup and enterprise more generally.
So I've heard a couple of themes emerging from what you've just said. There's something around, there's not a scarcity of imagination. Sometimes in places a little bit more scarcity. But so imagination is there, but what we need is more people listening to these imagineers, listening to these what if, or what about. And therefore having people lending more ears and be challenging it about who they are listening to, and say, what about listening to other people who have less of a voice? What else am I hearing? I'm hearing that sometimes people who got more money, etc., get more airtime. All right. And Rachel, you just say sometimes we have more, when we have more constraints, something we throw less energy, actually some emerging innovation pop up, and they might even so function with less commodities or things that we, that getting more and more scarce actually. So having constraints is another very interesting element to this. So what if we listen to people who are facing the most constraint? What if we listen to people who might offer solutions that are less costly and just in front of us? I wonder if there's something emerging here, and I wonder, what are your new, freshest thinking? In a nutshell, again, I'm aware of time, about turning this around. So what if you could offer more listening time or more opportunities for people to listen to each other? What would you do?
I think for me, I would love to see also cathedral thinking. At the moment, innovation is focused in the next 3 to 5 years, someone's got to make a profit. And so there's a lot of stuff that kind of grumbles underneath. But for example, if you were going to think through the 12-volt lifestyle, which would be an amazing impact on society and the environment. You can imagine the reduced energy bills, particularly at the time where fossil fuel bills are kind of going through the roof right now. But the idea that we can all contribute to a grand narrative. And it's not just the one person innovating the thingy that saves everything. To be able to, so for me, if I could, so part of the work that I like to do is to try and work with communities, workshops, try and prime imaginations, particularly for young architectural students, designers, to think through this technology, to contribute in their own way towards a bigger picture, which is about a changed society in which we can all play a part. So if we can think collectively about if we can start to build the image of the kind of community that is possible, I think that we get impassioned about it. Once we start to see it happening, it's got to go beyond the idea into the prototype. Once you start seeing those prototypes, you start thinking, wow, this really is possible. What if we have 100 of these? What if we have 1,000 of these? What are the outputs? We start to test all that. And then people really start to see the possibility. So I think these, kind of the small prototypes that we see around, they really are great. I mean, I would love to see an ideal home in that way. Or, many of these kind of biodesign initiatives, many of these kind of nature-inspired proposals, kind of jammed up against, and this for me is a big thing, a new economics, a new thermoeconomics. In other words, the relationship between energy and consumption and resource distribution in society. So we need a new thermoeconomics for society, which really requires microeconomics. So being able to use resources directly in communities as a kind of currency that would link with a universal global set of currencies, but neither of them would be mutually exclusive. They would probably dovetail in positions. And particularly if we get this idea of the biodigital, where microbes that are electrogenic, that can read and produce electricity, can actually start to stimulate the kind of chemical synthesis that is the fundamental regenerative processes of nature, which we normally call compost. But actually now we have insights that we could actually structure compost in ways that produce molecules that we want. I mean, we're not there right now, but this is the kind of knowledge that's being accessed at the start of the 21st century. So
what I'm taking away from that is that cathedral thinking. That means you might not be the one who sees the project through, but you contribute as a piece of that effort, and you build that impact as you go. And it's a lifetime project, an individual lifetime project, but a different sense of ownership. Melissa, just to close up, as we're reaching to an end, maybe we could do more of these series just to continue the conversation. Melissa, what would you say? What is your freshest thinking now, in a nutshell?
I think we need to inspire people, and I think there are many things that we can do to inspire them. I think we could have much more creative content. For example, if you think to the television, there are many, many, many documentaries where people are just doing up a home to rent out or to live in, and they're using very conventional methodologies to do that. So many that, frankly, it's become boring. I don't want to see another makeover show. What I want to see is some of the brightest architectural minds, some of the most innovative thinkers more generally, being put in a situation where they've got to do some really serious problem solving. They're essentially doing what they do in a college environment, but actually being put in situations that are almost like splicing in a bit of kind of Bear Grylls. And the reason I want to see that, the reason I see architectural students and practitioners and other thinkers put in these very real gritty situations is because it's when they're confronted with hard reality, when they're confronted with water shortages, with off-grid, there's no power and so forth. That's when they really perform. That's when the really original ideas come. That is when science essentially prevents against ridiculous concepts, of which we've seen far too many, that are just imagined in CGI, things like floating islands and all sorts of things that would never actually work in practice. That all falls away when you take when you take innovators out into the wilderness, as it were. So that's just one idea. I basically want to see the fusion of reality with brilliant minds, but I want to see that presented to the world in fantastically creative ways. Because if we're thinking about cathedral thinking, one of the things about cathedrals is that they were designed to inspire. That is why they have the amazing stained glass windows. That is why they are these, amalgamations of the very finest architectural thinking and achievements and engineering of the age. That's why people grafted. That's why people gave such money to the church and so forth, because it actually elevated. It was something that made them feel that they were headed towards a brighter future. They were literally building what they thought to be better futures, and that was a very visual, it was a very visceral, it was a very tactile thing. So I think we need a lot more of that, and I think we definitely have the capacity to create amazing visual and audio and other artistic ideas. And I think that really is the key, because people are not going to get excited about hard statistics. They are going to start to feel really very depressed about reading about some of the actually traumatic events that are happening because of climate change. And they need to feel that there is something to look forward to. They need to have their minds catalyzed. So I think we need to bring in the arts. The arts really need to be supported, but not just for their own sake, for the whole sake of society. And when we bring all those different communities together, I think the magic really happens.
Oh, wonderful. So if you are following live, or if you are just checking in the video, I just I would love to invite you to take a pause now and just think about this notion of cathedral thinking, cathedral building, like a ship that takes you to a much more inviting future. And the future is starting now, because your presence of thinking is about what you're thinking about now, who you're listening with intent, who you're listening to with intent, and what you're going to do with this. And so even if it's a meditation to let that sink in, that's already a great start. And I wonder, for all of us who are listening now, what is your freshest thinking? And what is the stone that you bring about to build this cathedral? Thank you so much.
I love that idea of bringing a stone. Everyone brings their stone to the cathedral. That's a really nice concept.
Wonderful. So I hope we'll do that again. Can we, Melissa and Rachel? And thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Okay, well, we will share this, and also if anyone has any comments, if you share it, then we will add that in. And absolutely, it'd be great to meet up with you again and just extend this conversation.
Wonderful. Great building. Bye-bye.
Bye for now.
Thank you for joining us, everyone. And lovely to see you both. Bye-bye.
You as well.